excited today to have with me Dr. Michael Horowitz. He's the President of TCS Education Systems. Thanks for joining me.
Great to be here. Very excited about our conversation.
Yes, I think we talked for almost 2 hours right before this, and we probably could have talked for another 2, and we won't do that now, but just to hit some highlights. So right off the bat, your why is?
Our why is fueling radical cooperation. TCS Education System stands for the Community Solution in Higher Education, and we're a nonprofit system of colleges advancing student success and community impact, and we work on that day in, day out.
So one of the things that certainly means is working within each institution and with them
Yes.
to help them be more efficient. But perhaps even more powerful is how you are banding together like-minded institutions for all kinds of different reasons. But the one thing that does hold them together is a similar purpose or mission.
Yeah, so each institution has a distinct history and a distinct mission, and at the same time needs to resonate with our mission to prepare global agents of change. And what that boils down to is we want mature students who seek to change their community, make a better world through a high-level profession. So as examples, we have students pursuing degrees in psychology, nursing, law, education, early childhood, and they're really passionate students. Our typical student's a 35-year-old woman that's coming back to school for her professional education. And so yes, we build this community. I would say it's possible, and I hope that we make the colleges that form our community more efficient. More importantly, we're helping them advance their mission by stronger education for their students, stronger connections to their community, and then in turn to the other students, faculty, and staff that make up TCS Education System.
That's a good point. Making them more efficient is probably understating what you actually do, because you do offload a lot of the operations, things that maybe aren't the greatest skill of any number of, especially nonprofit organizations in the world, so that they can focus on what they do.
They can focus more on the students. I mean, we're very passionate about our students retaining within their program, and more importantly, graduating. So the more we can drive the attention of the college leadership, faculty to focus on students, and as you said, offload the very important and necessary things that are part of running a college or university, but aren't part and parcel of the education, whether that's finance or any number of areas of operations.
And how do you structure the programs or help evolve the programs so that the students are better prepared? Maybe in 2 ways. One, when they enter, as you said, they're a little further along in life, so that they're treated in a way that appreciates and respects that they have the life experience, and then also when they come out, that they are very well situated and oriented to go into the workforce in that particular profession.
Right. So we resolutely welcome and seek students that have both life and substantial work experience, and that's a great kind of selection process. Students, I would say, self-select really well to us because they understand that the faculty and the institutions will welcome that life experiences. If we have someone that's been teaching in an early childhood classroom, now wants to pursue their graduate degree, we want to make use of that education, bringing that together with other students in the classroom. I would say that overwhelmingly our students are going to have an experience during their time with us in community service, doing a placement, a practicum, an internship in their local community that's going to really shape their knowledge and skill in working with real life problems and issues.
Absolutely. So I'm sure there's any number of ways that this affects the community that people go back into in terms of the workforce. But one of the examples you brought up was the relationship with the police, and then also particularly psychology, and looking at the institutional prison system and poverty and how all of that, I mean, I know those are all, each one of those is a massive issue, but they all relate to each other. And it sounds like, your programs are having a direct impact.
Yeah, so actually 3 of our colleges, Saybrook University, the Chicago School of Professional Psychology, and Pacific Oaks College have mental health programs that touch broadly on this forensic criminal justice area. And as you suggest, these are complex issues related to mental illness, to poverty. And I think optimistically we're living in a time where society is realizing, we can't just incarcerate away all of these issues and problems. So if we train people to be mental health counselors who are comfortable working with incarcerated populations, a big need is what some people refer to as ex-offenders, right? So even if we take people out of prison, they have to be mainstreamed back into education or the workforce. So we have an example, a great alumna who spent a career as a police officer, Dr. Ginger Charles. She came back, did her PhD at Saybrook University, and now she's published a book and articles. Her mission is to help police communities understand their community better. And as she says, both communities have a responsibility. At the same time, the police community is the ones with the authority, the power, the guns. And so if she can help that community really take the lead in having true community policing, we hopefully will have fewer people incarcerated and do a better job in what's really a flashpoint in our society. And I would say that kind of passion and that kind of practical passion is very typical of the student body and the faculty that we attract.
That's fantastic. So speaking of the faculty, you've got an upcoming conference, the second annual, I believe, where you gather everybody.
We're doing it every 2 years, where we physically bring together large groups of faculty across the 5 colleges that we sponsor as a system. This year our focus is advancing online education and lessons learned from online education that we can bring back to even the ground classroom. It's evolved so quickly that the idea of pure online is almost going away, because ground classes make use of technology, and students and faculty that teach online actually like coming together in person where possible. So that's an example of how we build community across the disciplines. We of course find ways through technology and smaller meetings to build that community throughout. But we've committed to every 2 years bringing faculty together. Actually, next month we'll bring together the boards of trustees of our 5 colleges and the system. We think there's so much to learn from each other by bringing people together physically in a place and share that kind of common experience. So when we talk about community and we talk about breaking borders, in one sense we say we want our students to be very global and international. That's one meaning. We also want to break down silos within higher education and expose students, faculty, staff to each other within TCS.
Sure, and that's something, one of the many things you offer is that perspective.
Yes.
You can sit back and say, certainly within the 5 institutions you're working with directly, but you've also talked to dozens more.
Correct.
And just based on your own experience, and they can share notes, so to speak, which is, I think, very, very powerful, because you were saying that, and this is true, I think, of any organization, but maybe especially true of higher education, where they're not always poking their head up to see what's going on in the rest of the world, and they can really get caught blindsided by that.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I think one of the things that we've contributed at TCS is an outward perspective. I just was privileged to go on our first study abroad course that took all 5 colleges, and we went to Berlin to study immigration in that context. And I think a power of our education is having our eyes open to the outside world. There certainly is a time to hunker down and study required knowledge. There's so much that's needed to be learned, though, from having an outward focus that advances the education.
And a minute ago you were talking about technology. In more recent years, I've heard this referred to as flipping the classroom, where it's not about somebody just up there lecturing and, as you said, sort of pouring knowledge into a bucket. But you guys have been doing that for quite a while.
Yeah, I think more and more with the use of technology, we can do that better. And at the same time, I would say we've been doing that for years. All of our classes are small. I think our average class size across all institutions, maybe 15 students. And because the work is so, in a sense, personal and intimate and serving people. There's got to be a lot of case study. There's got to be a lot of processing of work that students do in the field. When they're in their field placements, they're working under supervision of local professionals. So yes, technology has afforded the opportunity to do even more in terms of disseminating knowledge and preserving the classroom for that kind of very intimate professor-student relationship that's very powerful.
Absolutely. So what's next for TCS? You are wanting to bring on other institutions?
It's a combination of us being out in the world and people being aware through our faculty and other presentations and interviews like these, and people seek us out. We think that over the 6 years we've been around that we've talked about 100 institutions to get to 5. First and foremost, it has to be that commitment to the mission, to the common purpose. We like to stay in that space of the student that's seeking a professional degree, so that narrows down the institutions that are right for us. We certainly hope that there will be more, and probably on a daily basis there's some level of conversation that I'm engaged with at different levels with other institutions. I think it makes sense for nonprofit higher education to look at our model, and I hope not only that we grow, but other like-minded institutions in other sectors of higher education find the right partners to do something like this and fuel radical cooperation in their space.
Absolutely. To wrap up, one hot topic out there is student debt. And you said something really interesting, which is that you're not as much worried about the student with $150,000 in debt as the one with $5,000 in debt that doesn't get the degree. Can you talk a little bit about that?
That's what we're seeing. The research shows the biggest pain point are the students that don't graduate. So expensive as higher education has become, getting a bachelor's degree and then further getting a graduate degree will have enormous economic payoff over a person's lifetime. So the most important thing is doing a better job with our completion rate, which is unfortunately low in American higher education. At TCS colleges, it's very high, retention and graduation. And at the same time, we do everything possible to counsel students to take on as little debt as possible. And then once they have graduated, guide them toward income-based repayment or different repayment programs where they'll get an extra boost by being in the nonprofit space or serving underserved communities. So we're really all over that topic, that certainly if a student has to borrow, and many do, that they borrow as little as possible. But most importantly, that they complete their education. If they complete, we have one alumna from early childhood, she was asked at a conference about her student debt. She said, "Don't feel sorry for me. I've had 6 pay raises since I got into early childhood." At the same time, I have a job where I get a hug at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day, and these are by and large passion professions. So our students, we want them to earn a good living, and at the same time they're very fulfilled, I think, in their work as teachers, as psychologists, as nurses, etc.
But compensation can come in the form of a hug, is what you're saying.
It's part of it. It's not sufficient, but it's a good thing to have as part of it. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and financial literacy in general, I would argue, is something this society lacks in many ways. So the fact that you're integrating that into your program is huge.
Yeah, it's a big part of our, we consider that part of the education we offer, and that's an interesting part, that we have staff that works in financial aid. They're really part of the education of be literate about finances as you go out to your profession. Yeah.
Got it. Well, thanks for spending a good chunk of the afternoon with me. Could you share a little bit about how to find TCS?
It's been great speaking with you. Thanks for the opportunity. Please follow me on Twitter at TCSEDPrez, P-R-E-Z. And we have a great website, www.tcsedsystem.edu, and that'll tell you a lot about our organization. It'll also link directly to the websites of all 5 of our colleges.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thanks.